WOUBnewswatch.com.
Now it's 6:30. The Ohio Supreme Court denies Nelsonville's request to reopen the city's case concerning candidates on the city's November ballot. Plus,
it's dangerous. The people are losing their lives.
One person is dead and two are injured after a shooting at an ICE center in Dallas. The latest developments as officials call for an end to extreme political rhetoric. And in sports, Ohio football is preparing for their MAC opener against Bowling Green this Saturday. Newswatch starts right now. Thanks for joining us. I'm Charlie Ehlenfeld. It's been another rainy, muggy day in Athens. To see if the clouds are going to clear up anytime soon, let's hear from forecaster Steve Nedlick.
Yeah, Charlie, thank you. We actually had some rain move through, and that did help us cool off just a little bit to 73 degrees, but it didn't get rid of that humidity as we're still at 88%, so it's certainly muggy, and those clouds really aren't going to go anywhere for the next 24 hours. Looking overall at southern Ohio, we're still pretty much all in the mid-70s. That's going to continue to go down as we head into the overnight hours. They'll start to heat up again tomorrow, but this rain is going to linger overnight, mostly to our south, so it won't impact us too much. But again, the clouds and rain are going to be here for at least the next day or so. For tonight, though, we're not going to cool off much because all those clouds are going to act as a little bit of a blanket. So it's going to be an overnight low of 64 with, again, that rain 90% chance really isn't going to go anywhere. Tomorrow, we don't heat up quite as much because this front moved through and that helped cool us off a little bit. But again, a 70% chance of showers, so it's going to be another rainy, muggy one, and then an overnight low of 57. So stay tuned for my full forecast where we break down what the rest of the week looks like.
Thanks, Steve. The Ohio Supreme Court denies Nelsonville's request to reconsider its previous ruling concerning candidates on the city's November ballot. Just last week, the court decided it would not remove candidates running for city government under Issue 23, a citizen-led ballot initiative that would change the city's form of government on Friday. The city filed a motion asking the court to reconsider their decision. Now that the court has denied their request, the city is in limbo, but more lawsuits are almost certain. Ohio has some of the highest property tax rates in the country, and taxpayers are struggling to foot those bills. A new report shows that instead of schools spending more from property taxes are being used to make up for less money being allocated to public schools by the state. The report says Ohio now ranks 45th in the country in the state's share of K-12 revenue. That's 10 places lower than its ranking from a few years ago. One person is dead and two people were injured in a shooting at a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility in Dallas. Authorities say at least two victims are detainees and no law enforcement officials were injured. This is at least the third shooting to target a Texas ICE facility this year.
There's still a lot of unanswered questions, and I want to encourage all of you to exercise a little bit of restraint and allow them to do their job.
Investigators say rounds found at the scene contained anti-ICE messages. This is at least the third shooting to target a facility like this one this year. President Donald Trump is canceling a meeting with top congressional Democrats, making any bipartisan negotiations much more difficult as the threat of a government shutdown looms over Washington. Julia Benbrook reports on the cancellation.
While a single meeting between President Donald Trump and Democrats was unlikely to result in a swift deal to avert a shutdown altogether, it was the most tangible indication yet that party leaders could come to the table and negotiate. When Trump canceled the sit-down, he said, quote, "After reviewing the details of the unserious and ridiculous demands being made by the minority radical left Democrats in return for their votes to keep our thriving country open, I have decided that no meeting with their congressional leaders could possibly be productive." Both sides are already looking to place blame as the funding deadline looms, and Democrats have accused Republicans of running away from negotiations.
They refuse to even sit down and have a conversation to discuss the Republican government shutdown.
Mr. President, if you're watching television, shut it off and come sit down and negotiate with us.
Ahead of the cancellation, key Democrats sought to center their funding demands around health care, much as they have in recent weeks, and emphasize the importance of addressing rising costs. According to a person familiar with the discussions, Trump's decision to not meet on Thursday came after a conversation with congressional GOP leaders where they cautioned against deal-making with Democrats. So at this point, there's no clear path forward, and the threat of a potential government shutdown at the end of the month is more serious than ever. At the White House, I'm Julia Benbrook.
Jimmy Kimmel's show aired for the first time since being suspended over his comments after Charlie Kirk's death. Kimmel addressed his comments in the opening monologue while defending free speech. Sissy says it lifted the suspension after, quote, thoughtful conversations with Jimmy. While critics claim the company originally caved to President Donald Trump, the president says Kimmel's return on ABC, quote, puts the network in jeopardy. ABC affiliates Sinclair and Nexstar Media are still not airing the show on their stations. For Ohio viewers, this will mainly affect those in the Columbus and Dayton markets. Coming up, with a slowing job market, more people are staying in their positions for longer. Experts share tips on how you can succeed in today's job market. And many retailers are turning towards automation and away from seasonal hires ahead of this holiday season.
After a sunny start to the week, the rain is here. Find out how long it sticks around next.
As Russia invades Ukraine, a community of artists become unlikely soldiers.
Ми звичайні люди у надзвичайній ситуації.
Armed with their art and their cameras, they fight to find beauty amid the destruction.
Історії, що ми їх розповідаємо через мистецтво, це теж наш спротив.
Porcelain War on POV.
Monday at 10 on WOUB.
It was kind of a moment of enlightenment.
So come get lost with me. We'll see the great unknown.
It's home to me. Wow, that's beautiful.
We could be the greatest story ever told.
When we all work together, we make change. I still believe in that.
I'm excited. You my hero, you know that, right?
Thank you.
Most people believe that doctors are healers.
Love is why we're here.
Life goes fast.
Our story is everyone's story.
But it's just the start.
WOUB is recognizing members of our Cornerstone Society. The Cornerstone Society is a group that wants to ensure the future of public media in our region. It includes people across our area who value news, entertainment, and cultural programming, as well as the educational services WOUB provides. Also included are graduates of Ohio University who took part in the WOUB Student Professional Development Program. Thanks to the Cornerstone Society for their generous support. To learn how you can be involved, email woub@woub.org.
Well, Steve, we have been in this drought for a while. Is this rain going to get us out of it?
It's certainly going to help, but it's not that simple. It'll take a little bit longer, and more consistent rain will certainly help drop us.
Yeah, and with all this rain, are we finally going to start to move into those fall temperatures?
I wish I said we were, but we're not, unfortunately. That humidity isn't going anywhere, and neither is that heat. We're still going to be in the 80s this week. But taking a look now at the rest of the region, we're still in the mid-70s, so really that rain helped a little bit, but that's really not what we're used to this time of year. We're more used to low 70s, upper 60s. So taking a look, in Athens, we're at 76, Lancaster 76, Wilmington 73. So all across the board, pretty much mid-70s. And then if we take a look now down south near the Ironton area, we actually had a flash flood warning and a special weather statement because they had a little bit of rain come through there, and that was more than we experienced. We just got, those sprinkles a little bit earlier, but they got some heavier rain. That's going to stay to the south of us, and we're just going to be having some moderate rain for the rest of the night. And with that, we take a look at the regional radar. It's pretty spread out. This line extends all the way down to Texas, but once it moves through over the next few days, we're going to get some clearer skies, but we're going to have to go through a few days of rain first. Now, the main reason all this rain is here is this low pressure system that's slowly moved its way in from the west, and that's just going to be impacting our region for about the next day or so. Taking a look 12 hours out from now, this is tomorrow morning, we're still going to be getting that rain. It's going to be cloudy skies, some more rain that's just going to stick around. Tomorrow afternoon, really no more movement, It's just going to kind of park over our region, but again, that cooler air is going to start to move in, and then by Friday morning, it's going to have started to push its way out, and that's what's going to help drop off these temperatures and also take some of this humidity out of the air. So we are going to experience a little bit more of this fall weather as opposed to these 80-degree temperatures that we've been used to over the past few days. And then on Friday night is when we really start to get those clear skies, and it's going to set us up for a pretty nice weekend. So once we get through this rain, the overnight hours tonight could drop a decent amount of rain, and with the rain we've had over the past day or two, that could pose some flooding threats in some regions, but then this is what we have to look forward to. This will help dry us out and start to drop those moisture readings, and so we'll start to have a little bit more of a pleasant week ahead. As for tonight though, an overnight low of 64 degrees. So again, if you're going anywhere, make sure you grab an umbrella because that rain really is just going to set up shop and it's really not going to go anywhere. Tomorrow, it's a little bit cooler just because all that rain, when it falls, it helps to cool off the air, and that's what's going to help us drop off a little bit, 70%, so it's really not going to be everywhere too heavy, but it is going to be a pretty widespread light rain, and then an overnight low of 57 degrees. So it's going to be a little bit cooler tomorrow night just because we're not going to get that sunshine that we're used to. And again, that rain is just not going to help us get any warmer. And then if we look at the 7-day, we actually, unfortunately, slowly, gradually go up. Tomorrow, we're 77. Friday, pretty much the same thing, except that rain starts to move its way out. And then Saturday is when we start to climb up a little bit with a lot of clouds in the region. And then once we get to Sunday is where we actually get back into the 80s. And then it's really, unfortunately, going to start to feel a little bit more like summer again, even though it's late September, going to be early October soon. Those overnight lows are also pretty high for this time of year. And with that humidity, it's really not going to help either. So make sure you keep those windows closed and those fans on because it's really not going to be comfortable sleeping weather like we'd be accustomed to this time of year. So make sure you keep the shorts in the rotation for the clothes because summer's not going anywhere.
Thanks, Steve. The labor market is slowing down, which means there are many sticking with their current positions longer than planned. Some career experts call this job hugging. Karen Kaifa explores how to make the most of the current labor market and when you should sharpen a resume.
One economist told me the pendulum has now swung since the post-pandemic job-hopping frenzy when workers had the upper hand to demand better salaries, better benefits, and remote work. Now employers are in the driver's seat, but workers can still maximize a position even when staying in place.
The post-pandemic hiring boom meant workers could hop between opportunities that offered the best benefits and flexibility. But the slowing labor market has given way to a new trend, job hugging.
Job hugging, as the title suggests, implies that folks out here are really clinging on to their jobs right now, even if they are only somewhat satisfied or even unsatisfied with their job.
The sharp turn leaving many workers unhappy.
They experienced this job market where they had more power, they had more ability to find a new job, to get a raise. And so the whiplash that workers are feeling is part of the reason that I think workers are so sour on the current job market.
Sam DeMace, career expert at ZipRecruiter, says job hugging doesn't have to be a negative. DeMace says workers may not have success in jumping to positions outside of their current company, but can build new skills on the inside.
Go for an internal promotion, go for a lateral move across teams, go for a raise. Now is the time to do that internally because companies are investing in that internal movement, in that internal upward mobility.
And during times of economic uncertainty, Glassdoor chief economist Daniel Zhao says even workers who make the most of staying put should stay a step ahead in case layoffs strike.
Prioritize your short-term health, right? So financial security, career, thinking about trying to get your network warmed up so that you can find a job if you are affected.
Despite the recent economic uncertainty, the unemployment rate actually remains relatively low. The last reading from the Bureau of Labor Statistics was at 4.3%, meaning employers may not be hiring, but they're not really firing either. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
Seasonal hiring activity is on pace to be the slowest since the Great Recession. New data shows companies announced just under 90,000 seasonal jobs so far. That number is about half of the jobs posted last year and far below the more than 400,000 jobs posted by this point in 2023. Economists say retailers are bracing for a weaker holiday shopping season, relying more on automation and efficiency rather than large waves of temporary hires. Major employers like Amazon, UPS, Walmart, and Target have yet to roll out big seasonal hiring plans. Instead, some retailers are opting to expand hours for existing staff and rely on on-demand workers. Tariffs are taking a toll on your checkbook. Chief financial officers say inflation in the U.S. could could be 30% lower without President Donald Trump's historically high tariffs. The CFO also expects tariffs will account for about 25% of price increases for 2026. Several major companies, including Walmart, Nike, Target, and Mattel, say tariffs will force them to raise prices on some of their items. These findings dispute the president's repeated claims that his tariffs are not causing price hikes for U.S. consumers. Tariffs on imported car parts are rocking the auto industry. Many automakers are absorbing tariff costs, and buyers are continuing to see higher prices on new and pre-owned cars. Jen Sullivan explores what the auto industry looks like for the remainder of this year.
If you're in the market to buy a pre-owned car, be prepared for some sticker shock.
If you walk in there blind and you have no idea what the numbers are going to look like, I think you're going to be offended when they present numbers to you that you didn't expect.
Joseph Yoon with Edmunds says used car prices skyrocketed during the early pandemic when manufacturing and imports halted. The auto industry is still recovering. According to Edmunds, the average transaction prices for cars that are 3 years old was more than $31,000. That's up 5.2% from last year. Yoon also says automakers aren't offering many deals these days, and buyers have less negotiating power on the price.
Your local dealership may run specials, but it's not the same sales that used to be there before the pandemic.
Yoon says the price of new cars has gone up recently, and because of that, he says more people are buying used. But there's much less inventory, and fewer people are leasing cars, which is also hurting the pre-owned car market.
Those cars aren't coming back to dealer lots as used vehicles, which means inventory will remain stunted for quite a while.
Tariffs are also driving up the cost of repairs. Most imported car parts are facing a 25% tariff. And there's a separate 50% tariff on imported steel and aluminum, some of which ends up in car and truck production. The price of car repairs jumped 5% from July to August, according to the latest Consumer Price Index report, which measures inflation. And repair costs are up 15% from a year ago. If you are looking to purchase a pre-owned car, Yoon says you'll find the best deals at the end of the year as dealerships make room for the 2026 models. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
The IRS says they'll be phasing out paper tax refunds for individual taxpayers. The change comes as a result of an executive order mandating all federal payments to transition to electronic methods like direct deposits or prepaid cards. Officials say the change is designed to speed up the refund process as well as to protect taxpayers from fraud, theft, or lost payments. The IRS says taxpayers should continue to file their returns as they normally would until further notice. A new study warns certain types of produce could be exposing you to more toxins than you think. The study found eating fruits or vegetables with higher levels of pesticides may raise the amount of toxins in your urine. The group compared USDA produce testing with human urine samples and found the more high pesticide produce you eat, the more pesticides show up in your body. To limit exposure, experts recommend that you carefully clean your produce and choose your fruits and vegetables with lower pesticide levels. Cancer survival is on the rise in the U.S. This is a result of advanced treatments and screenings. However, recent studies show that where you live, could impact your chances of survival. Mandy Gaither explores the idea of ZNA and how it contributes to surviving cancer.
First, some good news. The overall cancer death rate in the U.S. dropped 34% between 1991 and 2022, averting about 4.5 million deaths. But the bad news, not everyone is seeing this shift in their battle against cancer.
Where people live can determine whether they live from cancer, and not by a small amount.
In a new study from the American Cancer Society, researchers say the overall 5-year cancer survival rates for each stage of cancer were lower in rural areas for both Black and white U.S. residents, which means your odds of surviving cancer aren't only based on biology, says Dr. Arif Kamal.
This study is now speaking to the importance of someone's ZNA, their zip code, right? As we might think about someone's DNA, this idea that where you live and its location and distance from highly specialized care, including clinical trials, can determine whether you live from cancer.
Kamal says the first step in closing the gap is to be aware that there is one, and that rural residents may not have access to specialized services like radiation or to surgeons experienced in treating their specific disease.
So that means that people are, instead of having to go to cancer care, that cancer care is coming to them. And this looks like a lot of different forms. Smaller cancer centers throughout the country, even home-based cancer care delivery show a lot of promise in how we can close this gap.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Next in sports, as Ohio football prepares for the MAC opener against Bowling Green, find out what to look for and what the Bobcats will need to do to win. Plus, we've got previews of Ohio sports happening this weekend, so stay tuned for those up next too.
CasualWorks was not designed, created, or maintained by people who studied disability. They're people who studied opportunity. If a person has very limited movement and can make little teeny circles, there's a place for you. The idea of workers contorting themselves to a job is one business model. Our business model is that the job responds to the worker.
Next time, Antiques Roadshow revisits the city of Oaks, Raleigh, North Carolina.
Is that right? Yes. Oh, my God. This got my heart pounding.
Oh, thank you. That's wonderful.
It's the best thing I have ever seen on the roadshow.
Oh, my gosh. I love hearing that. Thank you.
Plant yourself and find out which values have wilted and which have grown in Vintage Raleigh, Hour 1.
Monday at 8 on WOUB.
Welcome to sports. I'm Andrew Woods. The Ohio Bobcats are preparing for their first MAC game of the season against Bowling Green. And while the Bobcats' rushing attack has been strong this season, the backs will have their work cut out for them against the stuck Falcons' run defense. The Ohio run game put on a show last week as Duncan Brune and Sia Bangura both scored 3 touchdowns. That performance continued a strong trend for the Bobcats as they rank second in the MAC in yards rushing. However, Bowling Green's run defense will be a challenge for the Bobcats as the Falcons ranks the second best rush defense in the MAC. That's thanks to players like Dorian Pringle, who led the conference with 6 tackles for loss and is second in the MAC in forced fumbles with 2. Pringle's not the only key contributor to the Falcons' strong rush defense. In his weekly press conference, Ohio head coach Brian Smith praised Bowling Green's D-line.
Defensively, I think they play hard. I like their defensive line. I think they really kind of get after it up front. I think they have good length. I think their guys move well, and they've done a good job getting after the quarterback. I think they have 10 sacks so far this year, which is really good.
Meanwhile, after a pair of draws last week, Ohio soccer will try to keep pace in the MAC as they face title contender and preseason conference favorite Western Michigan tomorrow. In both their games last week, Ohio scored first, but shortly thereafter, their opponent scored off a set-piece goal to tie the game and force a draw. And after the Akron game, head coach Aaron Rodgers said Ohio had to clean up their set-piece defense. That will be tested against Western Michigan, as their offense is tied for Buffalo for being the best in the MAC, scoring just under 2 goals per game. With the Broncos riding a 6-game undefeated streak and winning all their home games so far, this game will be a challenge for Ohio. Now the Ohio volleyball team will look to break their 7-game losing streak tomorrow as they take on the Bowling Green Falcons to open MAC play. Unlike the Bobcats, Bowling Green's got momentum on their side in this one, as the Falcons have won 4 of their last 5 and have won 8 of their last 10 games against Ohio. The Bowling Green offense is led by Amanda Otten, who leads the MAC in assists per set, and 2024 MAC Player of the Year Lauren Hoovey, who's currently second in the conference in points per set and third in the MAC in kills per set. First serve will be at 6 p.m. tomorrow in the Stroh Center at Bowling Green. After a long road trip to begin their season, the Ohio field hockey team finally returns to Athens this Friday as they host 11th-ranked UMass at Pruitt Field. UMass is the clear front runner in the MAC, coming in at 8-0, including an upset win over 4th-ranked Boston College. With Stars junior defender Neva Isinga and senior goalkeeper Myrtle Van Hernina, they have been one of the best defensive teams in the country, only allowing 6 goals per season. Ohio will need a standout performance to find the back of the Minute Women net. Finally, Ohio hockey will open their season this weekend as they play the Oswego State Lakers on Friday at 7 p.m. and on Saturday at 5 p.m. That's all for sports. Charlie, back to you.
Still ahead, it's that time of year again. Fat Bear Week is underway. Stay tuned to hear who's in the running for this year's biggest bear. And we'll be back after the break, but until then, here's a look at what's coming up on your public television station.
Thursday at 9 on WOUB. For more than 70 years, WOUB Public Media has been the place where people in our region turn to learn how stories of the past ignite the imagination of the future. It's where information, entertainment, and education work together to inform, enlighten, and inspire generations. It's the place where the community gathers to hear and see our world in new and innovative ways. WOUB, the public media you trust that's worthy of your support.
Miss Austen.
Miss
Scarlett. Miss Austen was sister to the great lady novelist Jane Austen.
What's she doing here?
My name's...
I know exactly who you are.
The lady detective. Miss Scarlett, isn't it?
Miss Austen. Miss Scarlett! Miss Austen.
Miss Scarlett.
Come along.
Life's complicated. In order to survive, we just need to accept that.
Hey, kill him.
We've got a murder to investigate with no body. People change.
Do they? 2 of our students have been found dead.
The professor's trying to help. Everybody's trying to help, Dad, except you.
You know the impact of a sudden, unexpected tragedy.
Professor, I can't do it.
Sunday at 8 on WOUB.
Make way for the Queen. The people love me. This is not a request.
Yes, Your Majesty.
It's almost time for nature's fluffiest beauty pageant. Fat Bear Week is officially underway at Alaska's Katmai National Park. It's a bracket-style competition where voters get to pick their favorite brown bear getting ready for hibernation. Voters will get to see early and late summer photos of the bears. This year's winner will be announced next Tuesday, so you can still vote through the link on your screen. The bear, 128 Grazer, has been the bear to beat for the last 2 years. Well, I mean, that's quite the streak. You know, do you think Grazer's going to keep it going?
I don't know. I think there are some other contenders in this bear race.
Yeah, those pictures are just crazy. I mean, I was looking at them earlier. There's just such a long, it's such a development with the bears later. But Steve, you know, is it going to be that kind of weather where those bears are going to have to start hibernating soon?
It's not going to be anywhere close, as even after this rain, we're still looking at 60, 70-degree weather, so not anywhere near those wintry-like temperatures, especially tonight, only an overnight low of 64 degrees. That rain is going to make it a little more cool outside, but as we head into tomorrow, it heats right back up with a high of 77, and then we have a pretty pleasant week ahead of us with Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all pretty nice, 77 on Friday, 78 on Saturday, 80 on Sunday. So after we get through this rain, we have a pretty pleasant next 7 days ahead of us.
That does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks for watching. For Andrew Woods and Steve Nedlick, I'm Charlie Ehlenfeld. Stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next. Have a great night.